And muy buenas noches, bienvenidos. Thank you all who are on this very important call. This is Lily Eskelsen Garcia. I am the president of the National Education Association and a proud Utah teacher. I play it shamelessly that I was a state teacher of the year. And I do that because I really want people to know how amazingly proud we are of our educators. We are some of the country's best and brightest. And one of the things that we're going to do is we are determined to make ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act, truly work for our students. And so part of that is this first public webinar focused on Every Student Succeeds, and we're in partnership with our friends at ASCD. We're excited to share what we've been calling the Oklahoma story with all of you, because it's a story of stakeholders from all levels of the education system, national, state, district, and even the school building, working collaboratively, treating each other as professionals, and putting students and their needs at the center to co-create the solutions that are going to help them succeed. One thing NEA has focused on from the very beginning of the ESSA design and implementation process is that we as educators not only have the opportunity, we kept saying that, this is an opportunity, and it suddenly hit us that it's so much more than that. It's our responsibility to make sure that policymakers add relevant, meaningful opportunity indicators to that state accountability system that people are struggling with right now. Your state, your district, your school level ESSA plans. And Oklahoma is our shining model that's taking place right now and what they're doing to get it right for their students. It's not easy. It's not perfect. But we know you're going to want to hear the Oklahoma experience. And since this story is all about collaboration, we're partnering with our longtime colleagues at ASCD to make sure that we have as many folks as possible able to listen to these stories and these models of success. So joining me to welcome you this evening is our co-host for the evening, Deb Delisle, Executive Director of ASCD. Deb?
Thanks so much, Lily. Thanks, and I'm so excited that we are joining with NEA, our good friends, and I have to say that ASCD is an international membership organization with about 125,000 members across 138 countries, but we are so proud of the work that our affiliates do in every single state, and we're pushing on our 75th year. And for those of you who don't know, we owe a debt of gratitude to NEA because we were born out of NEA. So thank you, Lily, for being a great partner, and thanks to all of the educators. I have been in the education business for 42 years. I pride myself that I carry kids in my heart every single day. And so to have an opportunity to be engaged with NEA is just really jazzes me. So I really want to thank folks. I want to welcome our NEA members who are on the line, our ASCD members, and all the educators from around the country who are tuning into this evening's webinar. I wish that the media knew that you were all online right now doing this work because they would see that you work long hours. And there's nothing more important that's facing us right now than the implementation of the Every Student Succeeds Act, because we actually have an opportunity here to craft what it is that we believe in the context of our local and state educational communities, what it is that we want for our kids and how we define student success. I'm really pleased we're co-hosting the webinar with the NEA, and because we're able to combine our resources and our expertise in support of educator advocates who work every day to make a difference in the lives of their students and the quality of their schools. We know that as a profession, we're stronger when we can work together. We have common goals. It doesn't matter which organization we represent or which school or what kind of school we have. I'm excited that you have such an energetic and passionate leader in Lily because she knows, as I do, that every kid in America, every single kid in America deserves the very best that we can offer to them. I know, as Lily does and so many of us on that line do, that the enactment of ESSA was important. We all waited so long for that to happen. but its passage shouldn't be viewed as an end or a tick mark that it was done, but it should really be viewed as a beginning for all of us, especially for those of you working at the state and local levels, because the work of putting the law into place in the states is now underway. And I don't want to shy away from the fact that while the law is important, what's important is how it impacts kids and teachers every single day. So I want to commend those of you accessing the webinar tonight because you recognize the importance of the implementation phase and you're obviously interested in being involved in the deliberations and decisions about things like state testing and school accountability, professional development, and support for a well-rounded education that would be made by state and local leaders in the months ahead. We know that the lessons and experiences of educators in Oklahoma that we're featuring here are instructive examples for you to consider, and I really, really want to applaud their work. I think Lily said it best when she said this is not easy work, and I do look at it as an opportunity. We have asked for more input on the part of educators across local and state levels, and now we have that. So we have to ensure that ESSA is, while it may look different based on each state's priorities and circumstances, we all know that what we want for every kid in America is to have the best education possible. So what really remains the same is the need for educators, no matter our roles or location, wherever you're at, to be involved in all of the discussions so that the expertise of educators helps inform the policies and practices that are going to be put into place. Our Associate Executive Director, Ron Nazoy, always says it's time for educators to take back the conversation. And I think that ESSA allows us to do that. So let's take back the decisions made in education. Let's be educators who step up and say, this is our time and place. Because you live it every day, you are in the best position to know what will work to support your kids, your colleagues, your schools, and your community, obviously. So again, thanks for your interest in the webinar. Thanks, Lily, for agreeing to be a partner with ASCD. I applaud your work from afar and for everything you do to help our kids be healthy and safe, engaged, supported, and challenged. Hopefully you'll find this evening helping make our vision of student success a reality.
Well, Deb, I want to thank you for those really kind words. I love your energy. We're going to hear from quite a few folks in this next hour. Kathryn Bishop, who's the Vice President of NEA's Oklahoma affiliate, Oklahoma Education Association, is going to be our moderator, our MC, and she works with an incredible Oklahoma team, which includes her OEA president, Alicia Priest, who can't be with us tonight, but she's well represented with Kathryn and the good folks in Oklahoma. We'll also hear from Dr. Robin Miller, the Deputy Superintendent of the Oklahoma State Department of Education. She's with us tonight, and she's going to talk to us about her perspective on the benefits of collaborating with educators, their efforts to engage stakeholders meaningfully, and some of the key milestones achieved in their state ESSA implementation processes so far. This is truly a system-wide effort. You know that's the way it's going to work, from the national, state, to the district level. So we also have the pleasure of having representatives from Moore, Oklahoma with us this evening. You're going to hear from Dr. Robert Romine, Superintendent of Moore Public Schools, and David Peak, the Assistant Superintendent, Amy Braun, a principal at Sky Ranch Elementary, and our very own, I love her, Elise Robillard, who's the President of the Education Association of Moore. Finally, you're going to hear from Lynn Jones, President of ASCD's Oklahoma affiliate, to share a few of those key themes. And then wrapping it all up is going to be our own Donna Harris-Akins, who is the staff team leader for our ESSA implementation work, and she's going to tell us what's up next. Before we get to Kathryn and let her kick all of this up, I'm going to ask Michelle Hudgens from our staff to tell you how you can submit your questions. Michelle?
Thank you, Lily. We would like to invite you all to please submit your questions in the box on the lower left side of your screen. You'll see it says Ask a Question. We'll respond to questions periodically throughout the course of tonight's webinar. And please check the box often for responses. We will have a few moments at the end of for additional questions, so please be sure to submit your questions via the text box. We're going to try to get to as many as possible. And those that we don't get to, we'll actually follow up with you all later in correspondence.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And thank you all again, the cool kids who joined us. All of the cool kids are on this call right now, and we're going to get right to it. There's so much for us to share. I'm going to turn the floor over, or the lines over, to Kathryn Bishop, Vice President of the mighty Oklahoma Education Association. Buenas noches, Kathryn.
Thank you, Lily, and thank you, Deb, for the wonderful introduction, and to NEA and ASCD for co-sharing this very important webinar. As Lily said, my name is Kathryn Bishop. I'm a National Board Certified teacher, a 23-year career educator working with students with disabilities, and I have the privilege to serve as Vice President of OEA. On behalf of OEA President Elise Robillard, I bring you greetings and also her deepest apologies that she was not able to join us tonight. This is a story about collaboration, but we didn't start here. From 2008, Oklahoma Public Schools have been dealing with legislation where it created high-stakes measures on students, teachers, schools, and districts. It has taken a lot of work to create a culture of trust and also to create structures that are required to build and sustain collaboration. We all think of ourselves as collaborators, but it takes work and discipline to create systemic and structural collaboration that involves not just leaders in the state or district, but members throughout every work site. OEA focus has and will always be what is best for our students. So as I said, we found ourselves in a little bit of a crisis and in need of building a culture of collaboration. Tonight I'm just going to talk a little bit of how to build, sustain, and foster future collaboration. At OEA, our goal is to ready our members to participate in the discussions necessary to make decisions for high-quality teaching and learning. In 2013, we charged our OEA board members to go out and conduct one-on-one conversations to find out what were our members' top issues. The two top issues were having a state superintendent who truly supported public education and high-stakes testing. Our members wanted their students to have more time on learning and less on testing. From there, we built a 3-year strategic plan that involved community and member engagement with town halls, accountability sessions for candidates, and making sure that we had a strong get out the vote during the upcoming election. We then held 2 summits where we invited a multitude of stakeholders from our tribal nations, legislators, State Department, administrators, parents, students. We invited everyone because we wanted to have their voice in the room. Our first summit was on high-stakes testing, and our second was on TLE, our teacher-leader effectiveness model, our evaluation system. Also during this time, we created a strategic award-winning media campaign, Stand Up for Public Education. This campaign focused on elevating the profession and branding OEA as the voice of educators. And when we use the term educators, we are very inclusive with that term to include teachers, our fabulous support professionals, and administrators, as well as our future teacher candidates with our student program. We conducted community town halls at over 24 sites that we called Common Sense Testing Tour, where we listened to community members and their concerns. Throughout all of our efforts, we had created a strong foundation of collaboration. So when ESSA was signed into law this past December, we were on the right road to help our members see the opportunities that ESSA provided. President Elise Robillard created an OEA ESSA advisory panel where I serve as co-chair along with one of my fabulous local leaders, Lori Burris from the Middale School District, and we chaired this 18-member advisory panel. In March, we sent a state team to the Montgomery Institute for ESSA, and we were very honored and privileged to have Dr. Robin Miller from Oklahoma State Department of Education join our team. While we were there, we created a theory of change around educator empowerment. We saw this as an opportunity to help build background knowledge for our educators so they would be able to come and be adequately prepared to be stakeholders. We have conducted member engagement to help members become more aware of the changes that ESSA has. We've had forums, surveys, our own OEA publication, The Focus, also online resources. This past spring, we had an incredible legislative session, all-time member engagement, where we passed 2 historic bills. House Bill 3218, which involved assessment, enrolled our state assessment back to the federal level for grades 3 through 8th grade, and then once in high school, along with the high school U.S. history exam. And then House Bill 2957, the TLE bill, that I know our fabulous folks from Moore are going to talk more about tonight. As a founding member of the Oklahoma Education Coalition, we work collaboratively with our education partners, School Board Association, Administrator Association, Parent-Teacher Association, along with many others. And this gives us a cross-stakeholder engagement. But then, in April, we were in a crisis. We've been in a crisis. And in Oklahoma, when you're in a crisis, people come together. And we've seen it time after time. We had over 60 pro-public education candidates file for office, people that want to make a difference in our state. And then along in this past fall, our State Department created an assessment and accountability task force where also, once again, all the multitude of stakeholders are involved, and we're working through this process strategically because all of this helps to develop long-term relationships. And finally, I just like to look when asked, how do you foster future collaboration? I would like to point out a couple of strategies that we have found very helpful. First, make sure you reach out early. No matter where you are as an organization, reach out, start conversations. Make sure that you're reciprocal with stakeholder involvement. It's always great to have a seat at someone else's table, but make sure they have a seat at your table as well. Know your members' concerns and make sure that you're able to articulate to other stakeholders what your non-negotiables may be. That's very important. And finally, be creative in your collaboration and explore tailored ways to create awareness and build support. Last but not least, be open to opportunities to collaborate. And now it is my privilege to turn over our next section to Dr. Robin Miller, Deputy Superintendent from the Oklahoma State Department of Education. Dr. Miller.
Thank you, Kathryn. I'll start with a champion of collaboration. Joy Hofmeister was elected as Oklahoma State Superintendent of Public Instruction in November of 2014. Before she took office in January 2015, she championed stakeholder engagement by disseminating a survey to assess the education landscape, and over 10,000 individuals responded. This survey effort began the journey of collaboration that Superintendent Hofmeister continues to seek. In February 2015, the Oklahoma State Department launched Rich Stakeholder Engagement as part of the Equitable Access to Excellent Educators Plan. The feedback from 8 stakeholder groups helped to infuse the strategies now implemented in Oklahoma. Specific elements of this successful engagement include face-to-face meetings, a virtual forum for opportunities to continue discussion, and quarterly update bulletins. We continue to invest in relationships with nearly 20 advisory committees that routinely meet with Superintendent Hofmeister, again illustrating the communicative nature of this leadership that will serve to advance education in Oklahoma. Another successful collaborative effort was our state's adoption of academic standards approved by our legislature in early 2016. As we equip groups for engagement, we always keep in mind that it's always about the kids. We have found that our goals are very much the same as stakeholders. It's the journey to reach those goals that we convey collaboration. We suggest not to forget anyone: educators, business, community members, parents, legislators, Indian tribes, religious groups, nonprofits, and especially students. We meet them where they are. Literally, we go to their communities, and figuratively on their understanding of policy issues. Ultimately, we seek to have accurate and ongoing communication with all interested parties. Our ESSA engagement is a developed variety of opportunities. Our summer conference, Engage OK on the Road, a survey posted on our website, an established ESSA email address, and town hall meetings. The process depicted in this graphic is important as an aspect of fidelity to carefully vet all feedback generated. Once feedback is collected, we route responses by topic to the corresponding departments of our agency. Those departmental experts analyze the feedback and complete a vetting template for recommendation, and even for those comments not recommended and why. Our leadership team will take those summaries and gauge their alignment to our strategic plan and then for inclusion in our state plan. At present, we are guided by this transition timeline. We have completed early feedback and are equipping to post a first draft of our plan by the end of this month. A second tier of feedback will ensue as we dive deeper into the best use of federal funds. A second draft of the plan will be posted in February 2017, with the following months dedicated to finalizing and review by the governor. Submission of our Oklahoma Consolidated State Plan to the U.S. Department of Education will occur in July of 2017. As I mentioned earlier, we have a variety of feedback opportunities, and one of those is a Townhall Schedule that you see here. These 7 locations are representative of the regional approach we intend to continue. We are partnering with schools, technology centers, churches, and community centers to host these important conversations. Superintendent Hofmeister wants to have an exchange with her audience that allows us to know the impact of recent budget cuts as well as teacher shortage. In that conversation, we will certainly expect to hear what stakeholders want in improving low-performing schools, in the best use of assessments, in a transparent accountability system, and in ensuring excellent teachers and leaders.
Thank you, Dr. Miller, for laying out an excellent plan that the State of Oklahoma and the Department of Education in multiple ways that they are engaging stakeholder involvement. Next we have, as I said before, a fabulous group from Moore Public Schools. We have Dr. Robert Romines, Mr. David Peak, and Amy Braun.
Thank you for having us here this evening. This is Dr. Romines, and I want to take just a brief moment to introduce my team. First, Amy Braun, who is obviously an educator, and that's where she spent most of her career as an early childhood teacher. She's also been an assistant elementary principal and now has taken on the role of a head principal at one of our elementary schools. Amy spent most of her career in what we call our Title I schools and has been very successful in that role. We also have Mr. David Peak, who started his career off as a science teacher and spent most of his career as a secondary assistant principal as well as a secondary head principal, and now honored to have him a part of my team as the assistant superintendent over all secondary schools. So I'll turn the mic over to them and let them take it from here.
Well, this is David Peak, and I just want to send out a welcome from Oklahoma City. to all those people who are listening in this evening. And I just want to say that it's truly an honor to be able to share information with other educators across the nation, and just to tell you, it's a humbling opportunity to be a part of something that you really feel like that when the job has been done, that it was important work and it was significant. And the thing I want to tell you, if there's a part that we can bring to this, it's this. For you practitioners, you make a huge difference. Don't feel ever that you're burdened in a political system that can't be that can't be steered in the right direction by folks who have heartfelt concerns and have a desire to do the right thing for students. Stay the course and understand that you do make a difference in a system. If it is true that story is the language of our hearts, we just kind of want to tell you our story this evening, and let you know that really the famous saying, "There's nothing quite as powerful as an idea whose time has come," really kind of is a summary of how this happened for us. I would like to tell you that this experience started with some lofty goal to try to usher in ESSA, and actually it was far more pragmatic than that. It started in a room at our administration building where Amy Braun was our TLE director. Once again, that's our evaluation system for the state of Oklahoma, and we were charged with the notion of trying to figure out how to make a certain section of quantitative measures work for our particular school district. We had a manual that we were operating off of, and we were brought over to try to find out exactly how we would lay this out in our district. So if you look at the graphic that's represented, we went through several steps, and those are going to be the key points of our story. We were trying to wrap our mind around SLO, Student Learning Objective, and Student Outcome Objective trainings, and that's where it really starts. We were going through our manual that was provided in the previous administration in our State Department before Superintendent Hofmeister came around, and I came across one page that really gave me large concern. In talking about SLOs and SOOs, it said early research on the SLO-SOO process is limited, and you'll notice there it says at the bottom, and obviously I've added the emphasis, but mixed results point to a need for more research. And I thought to myself, if I went to a doctor and we were talking about a particular course of action, and if he told me that early research was limited and it had mixed results and it pointed to a need for more research, I would look for a different doctor. And one of the issues that we started to deal with was we didn't think that we could actually make this SLO-SOO quantitative piece process work because it had some inherent flaws. So Amy and I talked, and the group of people who we were there, and at the end of that process, we went down the hall. Dr. Romines asked us, "So give me the short version of how you think our work is going to lay out here." And we simply said, "We don't think in all good conscience we can do this." And it's great to work for a person who does not respond with, "Yeah, that really wasn't what I asked you." He instead said, "Well, what do you think we need to do from this point?" And we all felt like that we needed to do some homework. We needed to really understand what the issues were, and we needed to try to express this message. So as we went through the process then of trying to do just that, we had a first opportunity to share in front of our TLE Commission, a state commission meeting. And if you check on YouTube, there was a short video of that particular presentation that had 16 views, not the ones that you see in front of you. Clearly, it was not an idea whose time had come yet because it was early on in the process. But as a result of that meeting, it became obvious there were several people, and this was kind of becoming a touchstone for folks, and it was obvious that this was going to need to, that we were going to have to get the word out. So we created a short video, and you can see there it circulated around the state with nearly 5,000 views, and kind of started a deeper conversation about, can we really put all of our eggs in the quantitative measures basket as far as gauging how the quality of our teachers. Once again, we had some really deep concerns with regard to what would happen if, in fact, we did that. And one of the key concerns that we had is that there would be curriculum coverage and assessment practice issues and growth target variabilities. And as you see there on the slide, we just continue to say, if we're going down this road, we will eventually find ourselves with a low-performing teacher who we've taken inaccurate, invalid, non-reliable methods, and we may actually be trying to terminate that individual. My first concern was just legal issues that we would have as a result of that process. And as we went through that, and the more that we talked about it, we actually even ran that by our attorney, and our attorney expressed deep concern as well, just from a legal standpoint. And so it was obvious at that point that we were going to have to look for some other solutions. It was interesting then that about the same time that OEA had, as Kathryn had visited about previously, OEA had put together some summits, and the second summit was held in January of 2015. And at this TLE summit, we had probably 125 participants. You can see that we had people from the State Department. We had people from our tech centers. We had people from Alternative Ed, K-12. We had higher ed representatives there. We had, naturally, our OEA people there. And we had parent groups, PTA, people were involved. You can already tell that this, that the collaboration that Dr. Miller and that Kathryn have already talked about was already starting to gain friction. And people were there not because they had been assigned to be there. There was a real essence that we had to make some changes, and we had a very narrow window of opportunity to try to do that. One thing that became really obvious in this two-day summit was this. We were in a perspective in our state that we had a trust problem. We have a group of people who our patrons support us, and they do that with tax money, and they do that in various other ways as well, and they have every right to expect us to be accountable and to expect us to provide excellent service for their students. At the same time, we know that accountability is a slippery business. And sometimes to try to make it simple, we come up with measures where we can figure out a way to come up with one numerical figure, and that doesn't necessarily tell the story. And so we knew that we would have to come up with an alternative. Accountability was not going to go away, and the folks that we answer to, that we have an obligation to be able to serve, they need to know that there is a system that we were using to make sure that teachers were continuing to grow and that we had a systemic culture of teacher growth. And so we then, very closely after that, we had the opportunity to sync up our opportunity to share further with actually one of our representatives, our state representatives, Michael Rogers, who was outstanding. And in fact, he reached out to us. He asked us to read the first draft of House Bill 2957. And as we read through that draft, it was clear that he wanted to minimize the effect that quantitative measures were going to have. And that kind of became a political tsunami that was heading toward legislatively our state. The problem was we didn't really have a replacement or a viable option for talking about. So if we're not going to use that, how will we demonstrate, how can we create a culture where teachers will improve systemically, not just individually? So I put in the graphic up here, in the old quantitative model, we were trying to identify individual low performers. And what we were trying to do through those quantitative measures is we were going to try to improve our entire system by simply trying to either out-counsel or improve the performance of those very low performers. The problem with that is it really leaves the rest of the cadre unaffected. And, it was our perspective that a reflective practice model would be far more systemically sufficient and really exciting in that instead of focusing on where the black circle there, instead of just looking at that one individual who may be a low performer. What we said is, what if we could create a model that every single teacher would have a growth goal that would be developed annually, and that we wouldn't expect miraculous behavior over the course of 1 year, that instead we would expect systemic teacher capacity to improve as teachers learned just a little bit more about how to perform professionally and a little bit more about those effective high-yield teaching practices. The result being, and I feel like I have to provide the disclaimer that you see in commercials, the graphs are dramatizations, not actual data, but we were looking at the notion, if you're just looking at a tiny percentage of low-performing teachers, and if you are either improving them or out-counseling them, then you're only going to get a very small amount of systemic improvement. But if you look at a model that includes everybody, and if everybody cumulatively is having that type of improvement, and the real issue is kids in classrooms are feeling that improvement on a daily basis through improved instructional practice, that is a completely different model. The final thing I'd like to point out is this. Let's say the quantitative plan worked. What would you do in order to try to improve the performance of that small percentage of people? Because I don't know what it's like in your state, but in Oklahoma, the bench is not deep, as we say on Friday nights at our football field. We don't have that many people who are standing ready with certifications to walk into a teaching position. So in order to try to establish that kind of improvement, what we knew that we would have to be able to do is we would have to grow those people. So what would we do? Well, professional development. And if professional development is going to improve that small percentage of low performers, all the more so, that kind of professional development support would be absolutely fantastic with regard to the capacity for what could happen systemically if we could create that kind of plan. Michael Rogers then took that and drafted some language, and Amy and I and Dr. Romines and several others had the opportunity to look at that, and it truly was a collaborative effort. In fact, nearly everybody sitting around the table tonight had some part in this. We had other legislators who were actively involved. We had our administrators' professional organization. We had Elise, who's going to be our next speaker, from the Education Association of Moore, our local OEA affiliate, and we were able to come together and work out some compromise in this conversation, and we're able to come up with a plan that I'm very proud to say that it passed both houses by unanimous vote. So in the House of Representatives, House Bill 2957, and in the Senate, passed without a single no vote. So now the big job is bringing life to this, making it happen, and realizing that we're in it for the long haul, that this is something that we have to be committed to and embrace. And the wonderful thing is ESSA provides the opportunity and the freedom for us to be able to make that move. I think Amy has a little bit to share about the specific elements in HB 2957.
Yes, I know our time is almost up, but I will do this very quickly. One of the components of House Bill 2957 is that each school district must adopt a professional development policy that establishes an annual professional development growth goal for every teacher and administrator that is developed in collaboration with the evaluator. These professional development goals must be tailored to address a specific area identified through the qualitative component of TLE, must be based on evidence-based research practices correlated with increased student achievement, must be supported by resources that are easily available and supplied by the school district and the State Department of Education. Some of our components that we identified specifically in the law but do not limit ourselves to are presenter-led workshops, individual or faculty book studies, scholarly article studies or video productions, peer observations, committee studies that address student achievement issues, work related to specific subject areas, also associated with obtaining an advanced degree or professional certification, such as National Board Certification, action research projects in the classroom designed to improve student achievement, and participation in local, regional, or state initiatives associated with the development or implementation of curriculum standards. And just in my own building in more schools, I wanted to just share with you, if I gave my teachers the autonomy and the support to direct their own teaching and learning, here are just a few of the ideas of what they would like to focus on. Learning whole brain teaching strategies, becoming more familiar with our new state standards, learning how poverty affects the brain, researching more effective methods of communicating with parents, learning new differentiated instruction techniques, how to more effectively close a lesson by having students summarize their learning, using technology to better engage students, classroom management techniques for early childhood grades. And this is just one school in Oklahoma. So imagine the possibilities of all of our teachers in Oklahoma being able to dream and having the power to direct their own teaching and learning to actually improve student achievement. We are very excited about the future ahead. And now I would like to introduce Elise Robillard. She's the president of the Education Association of Moore, and she has a few more details on our story.
Yes, I am Elise Robillard. I am the president of the local association in Moore. I have been a teacher in Moore for 19 years, and I am a national board certified teacher of French. And I think that what I would like to share that may be of benefit to other local leaders in looking at some of the successes we've had in Moore is to recognize the power of relationship. We've been fortunate because under Dr. Romines and with his leadership team, we've really adopted in our district a common goal of doing what's right and best for kids. And from that foundation, all kinds of wonderful things have been possible. When we talk about creating a culture of collaboration, we are doing that between the association and the district, the association, the district, and the community, parents and students involved. And all along the way, the focus is on improving the educational experience of students. We have taken multiple groups to the Montgomery Institute, and with regard to ESSA, we were able to take Amy Braun with us. And I should mention, Amy is the former president of the Student OEA, and she serves on the board of the Oklahoma Education Association. And she came with me and two other teachers to Portland. We were invited to attend the Pacific Region convening that focused on ESSA. And from there, we built a plan of action for our local. We have an ESSA Action Committee, and with the support of NEA and NCUEA, we were able to bring in training in the spring. It was in May for both teachers and then also for administrators in the district. And this was kind of our first exposure to ESSA and the opportunities that ESSA represents. It got our juices flowing. And our local has an ESSA Action Committee. We're leading forward on professional issues, whether it's from time to learn and time to teach. Great support from Dr. Romines and his administration on reducing testing. Not only has our state done away with end of instruction exams, but our district has decided to take these useless quarterly benchmark exams and put them out the window, and I think we've got a better than 80% decrease in testing in our district as a result. We are focused as a local on developing national board certified teachers. Our state has a whole other story to tell on how that program was abandoned, but it's a very important component in our local's leadership. And as Amy pointed out, that's a model that would be fit beautifully with the new laws that we have in place with ESSA in our state. We're focused on providing professional growth and development opportunities, and in particular, we've written grants that support mentoring, and this is one way that we as a local are able to partner with the district in elevating the quality of instruction, the preparedness of our teachers in support of better student learning. We are focused on issues organizing, particularly with regard to minority groups, the needs of special ed students, and addressing the concerns related to poverty. We are currently in the process of holding educator summits. This is because we believe that it's important to engage our members one-on-one and in groups, to be responsive to their needs, and to lead for change. It's one thing to have a district
that is positively focused, that if we don't get the kind of buy-in that makes implementation of these new plans truly valuable for student learning, then much of this effort will be for naught. And we see the association able to partner with the district in bringing this to the teachers and therefore to the students in the classroom. I thank you for the opportunity to share on this topic.
Thank you, Elise. As you can tell that it truly takes a whole collaborative effort at a local level and the changes that can be made through that collaborative effort. Now I'd like to turn it over to Lynn Jones, who is the president of the Oklahoma ASCD affiliate.
Thank you, Kathryn. I'll be brief, but I did want to take the opportunity to mention that our Oklahoma ASCD, the collaboration that's established and you've heard about in the district and at the State Department, is evidenced in our diverse leadership roles of our board of directors. Our executive director is also the executive director of OEQA, the Office of Educational Quality and Accountability, a state agency whose focus is assuring quality teacher preparation, improving school efficiency, and providing quality statistical data. The work done by that agency is important and far-reaching. In addition to serving as president of Oklahoma ASCD, my other job, my day job, is as the executive director of accreditation at the State Department of Education. My office works directly with districts in the area of compliance while collaborating with them to ensure schools in Oklahoma are working to create a safe and positive climate for learning. Other board members are district superintendents, teachers, site administrators, and college professors. The degree of diversity of our stakeholders really creates the need for collaboration and transparency to enable our schools to provide quality education for our students. The state leadership is key to bringing the different groups together for meaningful dialogue and input. And as you heard Dr. Miller, Superintendent Hofmeister has done that to an extraordinary degree. I've worked at the state level during 3 separate administrations, and at this time, our state superintendent has created a climate of transparency and focus on doing what's best for children, and one that actively seeks to engage stakeholders at a level I have not seen before. All are encouraged and given an opportunity to participate in the future of Oklahoma education. Oklahoma ASCD definitely looks forward to continuing its collaboration with state educators, whether it be about ESSA or other initiatives for the collective good that can be accomplished for Oklahoma children.
Thanks, Lynn. And first, let me just say thank you to all of my colleagues I have sitting around the table with me tonight here in Oklahoma. And thank you for letting us share our Oklahoma story. Now it's time for me to turn it back over to NEA because we want to hear what you as participants are thinking about on this webinar.
Thank you. So we've got 2 questions that we'd like to ask you all to participate in tonight. The first question, what do you suspect is the biggest issue that your school, district, or state will address during ESSA implementation? And the second question is, how confident do you feel the decisions will be made collaboratively among administrators, educators, parents, and community partners? We'd ask that you please click on your screens and answer those questions now. I'm going to ask the questions one more time. The first question, what do you suspect is the biggest issue that your school, district, or state will address during ESSA implementation? And the second question is, how confident do you feel the decisions will be made collaboratively among administrators, educators, parents, and community partners? If you're online with us, you can actually go and select one of those with your mouse, or if you have a touch screen, you can click whichever box is appropriate. I'd also like to take this time to remind you, if you look over on the left-hand side below the Ask a Question box, you'll see a tab that says Event Resources. Most of the resources that were shared with you tonight will be available there, as well as during the rebroadcast, you'll be able to access them again there. So we want to make those as relevant as possible. In just a minute, we're going to move on to answer a couple of your questions that you had this evening. Mr. Moderator? Let's take a look at the results. Gotta love this technology thing, so I'm sure it'll be up in just a second. So while we're waiting for the results to come up, I'm going to go ahead and ask the first question. The first question I'm going to ask to Donna Harris-Akins. Donna, how much stakeholder input and engagement is necessary to meet federal requirements during plan development, draft report, and final report stages?
Thanks, Michelle. So the statute requires a substantial amount of stakeholder engagement, which was why a year plus of time was built in for planning purposes before the state plans have to be submitted. So educators have to be at the table for decisions, as do parents and other community leaders. And we know that some of the conversations will be comprehensive and challenging, which is, again, why there was a lot of planning time built in. But it was purposeful and it was intentional to make sure that when a state plan or, quite frankly, a district plan or school improvement plan is being built and developed, that the buy-in that will come from having those collaborative conversations on the front end is present for the implementation of those plans, when it is paramount that the plans are implemented with fidelity so that students are getting what they need.
Wonderful. So I see we have some of the survey results here. For the first question, what do you suspect is the biggest issue that your school district or state will address during ESSA implementation? 41% of you indicated accountability systems as the top. And the second choice was amount of testing. And then third came under teacher evaluations with resource equity and school improvement, tying for fourth, and then other, which would be interesting to find out what that might be. That was for the first survey result. For the second survey result, how confident do you feel decisions will be made collaboratively among administrators, educators, parents, and community partners? 10% of you were a little less than 11% were very confident. 51% were somewhat confident, and unfortunately, 39% of you were not at all confident. And so, Don, I guess this takes us to our next question. Our next question, what will happen if the state law doesn't change to align with what ESSA says at the federal level? Florida has many laws mandating high-stakes testing, including a law making a requirement component of teacher evaluations.
So the new statute, the Every Student Succeeds Act, did not come with a lot of mandates. It did come with flexibility and some guardrails built in to make sure that students had the support that they need. There is nothing in this statute that will force a state legislature to change its laws without action by educators and parents and policymakers to make sure that what happens within the state or within a district is actually now in alignment with the federal statute and with the opportunities that were built into the statute to make sure that things got better for students instead of staying the same. The goal at this point is to make sure that all of the policymakers and all the educators who are listening and those who are in your schools and whomever else you talk to in your communities realize that with this opportunity comes a responsibility to collaborate and to act.
So this leads me directly into our second question, my third question rather. What would you suggest for states that have not had this collaboration on deciding ESSA criteria for their state?
Don't wait. It's time to start. It's time to start the conversations. And whoever is listening at this point, and if it is your state that has not started these conversations, go start the conversation with yourself. Invite your colleagues to the table. Invite your partners to the table. Invite partners, future partners who perhaps you have not worked with before. But start the conversation about what kids need. You all are working in schools, or you're working in the district or at the state level. You know what is best for your kids, for your students. Start the conversations with that as the center and as the goal for your conversation to figure out what your students need. And then move from there, and hopefully the other state partners or district partners or whoever is missing from the conversation will see the progress that you're making and will come to the table.
So one last question, which I think is very important as we end our conversation tonight. What if our districts haven't said anything about ESPs and ESSA?
So one of the things that NEA has done is tried to make it very clear that this needs to be an inclusive effort. So on our national implementation, ESSA implementation team,
We have not just teachers. We have teachers and paraprofessionals. We have other education support professionals. We have specialized instructional support personnel, librarians. We're talking to higher ed faculty and staff. We're talking to all of our members about ESSA and making sure that their voices are in the room, because everyone who has responsibility for educating kids has a voice or should have a voice in this conversation, and we actually want to hear from those folks who have the expertise with students to make sure that our plans moving forward are, one, student-centered, but two, will actually yield the support and the progress for kids that we want to see. Perfect. So before we conclude tonight, and Donna, before you close us out, we want to go back to our partner one more time, David Griffith from ASCD Resources. David.
Hi there. Thank you. It was a great conversation this evening about ESSA implementation. I just wanted to highlight several resources that webinar participants might be interested in that we have on our website. We have a dedicated resource page, ascd.org/ESSA. It is all things ESSA, and it includes not only ASCD resources, but it's a central repository for other good information for educators. So, for instance, we have plenty of links to a lot of the U.S. Department of Education announcements and resources related to ESSA as well. A couple highlights on the page I wanted to make note of. I saw one of the participants had a question about this. We have a great ESSA NCLB chart, so educators can see what NCLB required and what the changes are being brought about by ESSA to help keep track of now what's transitioning and what the new requirements are going to be. We have a range of frequently asked question one-pagers on key provisions and sections of the law, so related to standards, assessments, and accountability, FAQs related to Title II, which is the professional development provisions, Title IV, the well-rounded program activities. These are all resources developed for educators, so what you need to know about the new law. We've also got our own webinar series. It's available on the web page. You can access archived the webinars about, again, a range of provisions about the new law. We've also got coming up a state implementation map. We focused a lot on Oklahoma tonight, but those of you tuning in from other states, what you'll be able to do is go onto the map and you'll be able to see where your state is in the implementation process, and it'll give you several links. Links to the State Department of Education's ESSA page, a link to providing input to the state, information about the state task force, if there is one, on ESSA, and also links to sign up for updates that State Departments of Education are disseminating out to the field. And then also wanted to just highlight a really great resource we have. It's an accountability guide written by assessment expert Jim Popham. It's a step-by-step process for identifying and evaluating the criteria for inclusion in multiple measure accountability systems. So it's going to be really useful for states and for educators looking to include a broad range of indicators, including those non-academic indicators in their accountability plans as per ESSA. And again, I want to thank you for being part of this. As we saw tonight, Oklahoma educators are okay. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight. We do want to talk about, so on November 17th, we will be having our next webinar. It will feature the Oregon story. Before we wrap tonight, I want to remind you of NEA's website, getessaright.org, where you can see an explainer video on ESSA that you can show at your faculty meetings or at your community conversations where you're talking about ESSA design and implementation, or at any other meetings. It's a fun video with babies and animals. That'll be fun for everyone to watch to start the conversation, to think about the opportunities that are present in the statute to fight for what you want for your kids. We also want to make sure you know about the practice guides that are online and the backgrounders, and there are also sample school board resolutions and action toolkits for folks who go to the website. There also is a lot of interest right now in the chat room for the Oklahoma folks and some other general questions. We do want you to know we will get answers to all of you via email, but we are going to have to wrap tonight to respect your time. Again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. The next webinar hosted by NEA and ASCD is November 17th. That's a Thursday evening featuring the Oregon story on member engagement. Thank you and good night.